Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking closely at a really profoundly human story.
Yes, one that's emerged from a very significant recent event.
Exactly. We're talking about the death of Murali Naik, an Indian soldier from Andhra Pradesh. He lost his life during Operation Sindoor.
And Operation Sindoor, just to set the scene, was India's response to that terrible terrorist attack in Pahalgam. That was April 28th, 2025.
Right, where 26 civilians were killed. A horrific event.
Absolutely horrific. And the responsibility, it was attributed to Lashkar-e-Taiba
Yeah.
and Jaish Mohammed.
And it's so easy, isn't it, for these big military operations to just feel distant. Headlines, numbers.
Just statistics sometimes.
But what we want to do today is focus on the core of it, the real lives, real people. Like Murali Naik, this isn't just about strategy maps and geopolitical moves.
No, it's about his life, the choices he made, and ultimately his sacrifice.
So we're going to explore his story, try to understand the operation he was part of, and also look at the wider impact of all this.
It is a heavy topic, no
Yeah.
doubt.
It is. But we want to connect with that human element, find those points of understanding, maybe even within the tragedy.
Absolutely. And Morley Naik's beginnings, they really ground this in a very relatable reality.
Tell us about that. Where did he come from?
He was from a pretty modest background, grew up in a small village. This was in the Krishna district of Andhra Pradesh.
Okay.
You can picture it, I think. A childhood on farmland. His family were farmers, working the land.
You could almost feel that life for them. And from what I gather, he was quite a spirited kid.
Oh, definitely. I heard stories, the kind parents tell later.
Yeah.
Apparently, he was the one who dared to climb the tallest coconut tree in the village.
Ha. Just to prove he could, I bet. Probably terrified his mother.
I imagine so. And there's another little anecdote, quite sweet actually, about his love for papu charu, that lentil stew. Always wanted an extra helping.
A growing boy.
And always getting into those playful wrestling matches with the other village kids. Just seemed like a regular kid, but with a bit of extra spark.
That makes him very real. So that spark, that spirit, did that lead him towards the army?
It seems like it, that inherent sort of courage. He decided to join when he was just 19.
19, so young.
Yeah. And talking to people who knew him, it wasn't about chasing, like, glamour or money.
No. What was it then?
A friend of his, Ramesh, he remembered Murali saying something quite profound. He said Murali used to ask, "If not me, then who?"
Wow. If not me, then who?
Mm.
That really cuts deep. That's a powerful sense of duty.
It really is. It speaks volumes about his character, I think. Beyond any kind of romanticized idea of war, it's about service.
So he joined the Madras Regiment.
That's right, a very well-respected unit. And by all accounts, he quickly built a reputation for being incredibly dependable.
Right.
Reliable.
You'd have to be, I suppose, especially in certain postings.
Exactly. Think about serving somewhere like the Siachen Glacier. Incredibly challenging.
Absolutely. And then training new recruits. That takes a certain kind of soldier.
It does. Someone steady, someone the others could really rely on. Which brings us, sadly, to May 7th, 2025.
Operation Sindoor.
Yes. Murali was part of a ground unit. Their mission was crucial, securing a very volatile sector along the line of control.
The Losi, that de facto border in Kashmir. Always tense there.
Extremely. And during intense conflict, he stood his ground, prioritized protecting his comrades.
Until his last breath, as they say.
Yes. He was only 32 years old when he died.
32. That age just, it really lands heavily. Such a young life.
A stark reminder, isn't it?
It really is. Let's unpack Operation Sindoor a bit more. We know it was a response to Pahalgam. What was the specific objective?
Well, the stated aim was a calculated retaliation. It wasn't random. It specifically targeted the infrastructure supporting terrorist groups believed to be operating against India.
Okay, targeting infrastructure.
Yes. And the name itself, Sindoor, is quite symbolic.
Sindoor, the vermilion powder.
Exactly. Worn by married Hindu women, it symbolizes protection commitment. So naming the operation that, it signaled India's resolve to protect its citizens. A very deliberate message.
So, more than just reaction. There was a strong message of intent woven into the very name. What specific targets were hit?
Reports indicate 9 key locations were targeted. These included training camps, command centers belonging to Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish Mohammed, the groups India held responsible for the Pahalgam attack.
And Pakistan's reaction was not minor. They responded forcefully.
They did. Very forcefully, with substantial heavy artillery fire.
Aimed where?
Targeting several towns in the Jammu region, places like Sawari, Samba, Araspura, Arnia.
So civilian areas were impacted?
Yes. Now, India reported its air defense systems intercepted a lot of the incoming fire. But still, the situation along the Law Sea became extremely volatile. You have to imagine the fear in those communities.
Absolutely. And then things got even murkier with conflicting claims about aircraft losses, right?
Oh, yes. That added a whole other layer of confusion and tension. Pakistan claimed it had downed, I think, 5 Indian fighter jets and 25 drones.
Which India denied.
Strongly denied. However, there was a bit of complication. A source, reportedly from the French defense establishment, seemed to confirm that at least one Indian Rafale jet was unaccounted for.
So the exact truth is still a bit hazy.
It seems so. The fog of war, as they say. But what's clear is that the operation and the retaliation were significant military actions with very real, very serious consequences on the ground.
And none of this, of course, happens in a vacuum. It's all part of that long, incredibly complex history between India and Pakistan.
Decades of it. Ever since partition in 1947, the relationship has been fraught with tension, conflict.
Mostly centered around Kashmir.
Predominantly, yes. That dispute has led to multiple wars, countless skirmishes. The line of control, it's meant to be a ceasefire line, but it's heavily militarized. Skirmishes are almost, well, routine in some ways, sadly.
It sometimes feels like one of those never-ending TV soaps, doesn't it? Always a new crisis, the underlying drama never quite resolved.
That's one way to put it, though the stakes are infinitely higher, obviously.
Of course. I mean, you could probably have a more peaceful argument debating who makes the better biryani on either side.
Maybe. And perhaps tastier consequences. But yes, the international community watches this very closely, naturally.
The U.S., the UN, they stepped in quickly, didn't they? Calling for calm.
Immediately. Calls for de-escalation came from Washington, from the UN. The U.S. was also quite specific in urging Pakistan to stop supporting terrorist groups operating from its soil.
And China's position?
China was relatively quiet, actually. Kept a lower profile this time around. It often feels like this global chess game, doesn't it?
With Kashmir as the board. Tragic.
It does feel that way sometimes.
It's quite jarring when you remember. Wasn't there a time they used to exchange sweets at the Wagah border during festivals?
Yes, that used to happen. Small gestures of goodwill.
It feels like a lifetime ago now, hearing about missile exchanges instead. Really highlights how fragile things are.
It's a stark contrast, for sure. Shows how quickly those moments of connection can be completely overshadowed when tensions spike.
And circling back, at the heart of all this, the geopolitics, the military actions, is the personal cost. The human impact we started with. Murali Naik, he wasn't just a soldier, a number.
No. He was a son, a husband, his wife's name is Lakshmi, and a father. 2 young children.
How old are the children?
Just 7 and 4 years old. Tiny.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
And the details about his family life, they're incredibly poignant. Apparently, he called home every Sunday, without fail.
A routine, something they could count on.
Exactly. And he'd tell his kids these stories, made up tales about tigers and elephants, just to make them laugh, connect with them from afar.
And now those calls have stopped.
That simple, cherished routine is broken, tragically.
Can only imagine the grief in his village back in Krishna district.
Reports describe shops shuttered, the local temple packed with people mourning, a whole community sharing that loss.
Has there been much support for the family?
Yes. The response seems to have been significant. The Andhra Pradesh state government announced 50 lakh compensation.
Okay, that's substantial.
And crucially, they offered a government job to his wife, Lakshmi.
That's important for the future.
Very important. And there was a notable show of bipartisan respect, too. Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu, YSR Congress leader Jagani Mohan Reddy, the governor, they all paid tribute. It transcended politics.
It's good to see. But all the support, all the tributes, they can't fill the void, can they? I read what his mother said.
Ah, yes. It's utterly heartbreaking. He was my only son. Who will light my funeral pyre now?
It's just raw, so visceral. No amount of money or words can really touch that kind of grief.
Absolutely not. It speaks to the irreplaceable loss. And we have to remember, beyond Murali's family, this escalation had wider costs, too.
The Pakistani retaliation
resulted in civilian casualties there as well. Reports mention 9 civilian deaths, 38 injuries in those border towns.
And wasn't there another incident? An aircraft crash?
Yes, near Bathinda in India. An unidentified aircraft crashed, tragically killing a civilian on the ground. So the ripple effect spread.
It underlines the danger.
Yeah.
The UN Security Council met, didn't they?
They did, urgently, and warned about the whole situation potentially spiraling out of control It was a serious moment.
And Murali Naik, his sacrifice. It fits into a longer history for Andhra Pradesh, doesn't it? The state has a strong military tradition.
It really does. Andhra Pradesh has consistently contributed significantly to the Indian Armed Forces. There's a deep-rooted culture of service there.
We've seen heroes from the state in past conflicts, too.
Absolutely. Think back to the Kargil War, or more recently, the Galwan Valley Clash. Colonel Bikumala Santos Babu, another hero from the region, lost his life there.
So Murali Naik joins a lineage of bravery.
A very distinguished, though tragic, lineage of sacrifice and dedication from Andhra Pradesh.
And the local reaction there in Andhra Pradesh really shows how deeply this was felt, doesn't it?
Tremendously. You had schools observing a 2-minute silence, NGOs immediately starting fundraising drives for his children.
Practical support.
Yes, and symbolic gestures too. An engineering college offered a free seat to one of his children in the future.
That's looking ahead.
Exactly. And I was struck by the story of a local shopkeeper who put up Murali's picture outside his shop, declared his sacrifice wouldn't be forgotten. It shows that community connection, that resolve.
It really does. So looking ahead now, what's the immediate picture? Any signs of de-escalation?
Well, there are reports that the national security advisors of India and Pakistan have been in contact.
That sounds potentially positive.
It's a channel of communication, which is something, but, we shouldn't probably expect any swift resolutions. The situation remains tense.
Military presence is still high.
Yes, reports indicate increased military deployment on both sides of the Lost Sea, and while the UN has offered to mediate, there doesn't seem to be huge enthusiasm from either side for that right now.
So cautious steps at best. And for Andhra Pradesh, the focus is on mourning.
Primarily, yes. The focus will be on the healing process, on the funeral arrangements for Murali Naik. That will be a major event for the community, for the state.
And ensuring the promised support reaches the family quickly.
Exactly. Fast-tracking that compensation, the job offer, perhaps discussions about memorials down the line too. These things matter.
But stepping back again, Murali Naik's story, it really forces us to confront those bigger questions about this whole conflict, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. What is the end game here? What is the real human cost we keep paying? Is there any way to break this cycle?
These questions feel urgent, but they often get lost in the noise.
They do. Lost in the politics, the strategic talk.
Yeah.
But Murali Naik's life and his death, they bring that human cost right back into sharp focus. It's undeniable.
Sometimes in moments like this, you almost wish for something completely different. I had this absurd thought.
Go on.
What if, instead of fighting, they had a giant India-Pakistan biryani cook-off?
A slight chuckle in the voice, a biryani cook-off.
Yeah. Picture the leaders, Modi, the Pakistani PM, in chef hats, arguing passionately over saffron versus spices. Winner gets Kashmir bragging rights, loser does the washing up.
That's certainly image, a culinary detente.
I know, it's a pipe dream, completely unrealistic.
Perhaps. But it speaks to that deep down wish for something less destructive, doesn't it? A different way for these neighbors to engage.
Exactly, because when you strip it all away, Murali Naik died for his country, for its people, and maybe the best way, the only real way to honor that sacrifice
is to support his family, yeah.
And demand accountability, sure, but also to actually work towards a future where these sacrifices aren't needed anymore. That feels like the ultimate tribute.
Well said. Jai Hind.
Indeed, Jai Hind.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. It's been, a difficult but important discussion. Focusing on Murali Naik's story really brings home the human dimension of these larger geopolitical conflicts.
We've touched on his bravery, the complexities, the terrible cost of the India-Pakistan relationship, and why reflection is so vital.
So we leave you with this thought. In memory of Murali Naik and countless others affected, what practical steps, big or small, can we all take, individuals, communities, nations, towards fostering a genuinely more peaceful future in that region?
Something to ponder. We hope you'll continue to explore this crucial topic and always, always keep the human stories at the forefront.